Well, now we can begin to have some fun. We can take these sequential progressions that we've learned this week, and we can start with a four-voice homophonic texture and transform it into a three-voice polyphonic texture. We do this by applying patterns in each voice, and in each of these patterns we're going to usually involve non-chord tones. And so we can add to our repertoire of techniques or our repertoire of textures that we know polyphony. But interestingly, what will be demonstrated is the ability to transform homophony into polyphony. Well, let's get started with the circle of fifths, because the circle of fifths is probably the most common sequential progression we'll find. These first 5 bars should look fairly familiar to you. They're the result of what we came up with earlier when I was talking about the circle of fifths. And of course, this is homorhythmic, homophonic texture. It's keyboard voicing. And the goal here is to transform this into a 3-voice polyphonic passage. So you don't have to turn it into 3-voice, but you could, I guess, do 4-voice. But it actually makes the most sense when I look at it to turn it into 3-voice. And that should become clear in a second as I start doing the realization. I want to also say that we're actually building off stuff that we did last week. Last week we took things like this, and texture-wise it would be like this, and we would apply a pattern to the right hand and the left hand, and then all of a sudden it became an accompaniment. We're going to do something similar here, but we're going to design it in such a way that each of the 3 voices involved has a fair amount of uniqueness and independence. Well, let's start with talking about how we're going to turn this thing from 4 voices into 3. Well, when I look at this, a somewhat seasoned eye, although I'm not a classical composer at all, but I've done this fairly often since I started teaching classes on this stuff. What I see is these thirds. They stick out to me because I realize I can do nice little figured patterns with these. Thirds are, it's quite easy to get from say the C to the E or the E to the C via a passing tone, for instance. And I see, when I look at the voice leading, I see we've got this third in between the upper 2 voices, and then in the middle 2 voices, and then back in the upper 2 voices, the middle 2 voices, upper 2 voices, middle 2 voices, upper 2 voices, middle 2 voices. That suggests a pattern to me, and that seems like something that I could actually use. So the first thing I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say, well, let's see what kind of pattern can I make here? Or what might be nice? Well, rather than treating these as 2 separate voices, why don't I get the C and the E projected in a single voice, something like this. And then it would continue on with something like that. So this one voice, and as you can see here, we've got, should label this, we've got, we step in, step out, same direction, so I'll put this in. We've got a passing tone there. So this one voice, though, allows us to present what in homophony we need 2 voices to present. Okay, that's a nice little pattern. And then it looks like maybe I would then put the same kind of thing right here. Now, I guess it might be okay to go down and back up, but maybe in this one, in the second voice, I want to go up and then down. Let's see. Let's try. I got to add in a different voice here. Like that. And I need to go to that F, like that. And while I'm at it, I might as well add in the G. It's supposed to be there. Maybe I spread these out a little bit. Good, and now we've got the upper 2 voices and bass. Well, the bass could just be very simple. For instance, you could do something like this. Like that. That's completely fine. Let's make it a little bit more interesting and just have quarter notes. And we have these octave leaps. And I'll go ahead and complete the entire bass because, again, we can use cut and paste, right? Because this is a sequence. This should be fine. Let me play this back now. Let me add this one note, sorry. Might as well just throw that in there. Let me play this back so you can hear the, what it sounds like so far. So it's not so bad. Let's use cut and paste again to help us finish this faster. And sorry, I put in the non-chord tone here. I didn't do it, but again, we've got chord tone, so this is a passing tone. This guy I think I'll put down here. Passing tone. No, actually, just do that. It's easier. And this looks pretty good. We'll do that, but it's not going to, oops, give us quite what we want, I think. That's pretty close, though. Cut those all out. Okay, good. I did that very quickly, but I did it because it's just this sequential patterning, right? So we get this pattern, and you notice that there's a kind of call and response. We have this figure in the upper voice, then the middle voice responds. Upper voice, middle voice responds. We saw this very same thing in the example from Mozart, the polyphonic passage by Mozart. We had something in the upper voice, then there was a kind of response by the second voice, then the upper voice went again. So, okay, let's listen to this and make sure that the progression, that the polyphony works and that I haven't made many mistakes. Hopefully I haven't. And there you have it. That's a transformation of a homorhythmic homophonic circle of fifths progression that's in 4 voices into a polyphonic passage that involves patterns and non-chord tones in 3 voices. Okay, now what I want to do is the exact same thing, but I want to do it in a different way. That is, what I really want to show here is how much something like this very simple homorhythmic homophonic thing can be the source, kind of foundation for many different creative solutions to the thing that we're trying to do, which is essentially express this in a polyphonic texture with 3 voices. So I'm going to, well, I won't erase the bass voice, but I will erase the soprano and essentially start all over again. So let's try something else. Let's try maybe, and the point, the part of the reason I want to do this is not just to show that you can do different realizations, but that actually I want to give a couple of examples of different kinds of non-chord tones. So the last example was really good in that it showed how to do this transformation to 3-voice polyphony and incorporate patterns and everything, but it only used passing tones. Well, let's try using some other kinds of non-chord tones, not just passing tones, but let's try to throw in a suspension, for instance. Or let's try to have a pedal tone, for instance. So, okay, well, I'm going to propose this. Again, You can come up with a pattern first. You could say that would be the pattern. And of course, this is an F chord, right? This is a 4 chord. So this is a non-chord tone. This is our suspension. And before I said, I gave you the example of a 4-3 suspension. And this is what we call a 9-8 suspension. Let me explain where these names come from. Because that might have not been so clear in the last example, but it should become clearer once I explain it here. We saw in the last example, for instance, there was an interval of a fourth between the two voices, and then it resolves to a third. That's where the name 4-3 comes from. If we look here, we see that we have kind of like an octave at plus a note. So this is actually more than an octave. This is 2 octaves plus a note, so it's technically not a ninth. But it is, let's say, let's just do this real quick. So it's clearer. This is a ninth, resolves down to an eighth or an octave. And so this kind of suspension is called a 9-8 suspension. So let's have this 9-8 suspension. And by the way, you can't have like a 5-4 suspension or thing. There are only certain ones, and I mentioned them earlier. We've seen an example of the 4-3 suspension, the 9-8 suspension. And the only other one that I would recommend doing in the upper voice is a 7-6 suspension. And for our purposes in this class, let's not have any suspensions in the lower voices, only in a voice that's not the bass voice. It does happen. We do get suspensions in the lower voices, but there's only one kind that occurs. And but let's just use these 3 types of suspensions: the 4-3, the 9-8, and then the 7-6, which you can imagine is a seventh resolving to an interval of a sixth. Let me add in my other voice here. What shall I do? Let's see. Oops, I don't want that. We'll do something like this, so that from here we have this. This is the reason I want to get to this note, is because it's a chord tone here. And then after that, do something like this. Sorry, move this up here. And so that's the first bit of it. And if we look, we have this suspension. This will be a passing tone. This is also a passing tone. And then again, we can just copy and paste and transpose. This should more or less work. Actually, when I get there, I want to change it. Okay, so let's listen to what we have so far, so we can hear how it sounds. I'm going to add a bar here. Let me scroll here. Okay. Well, it's a little claustrophobic, but it's okay. Now we get a little bit of a problem here, because I want to get ready for resolving here, and I'm going to just switch things around a little bit. I'm going to have this do that. And do that. So we get a passing tone there. This is a bit like what we had earlier in the last example. And then I want to set it up like this, because I want to get these 6. You see the 6 between the D and the B natural. Okay, so I want to get it so that I can then do some kind of thing that you find with pedal. So let's go to the 1, and then 5, and then go there. And let's do this all in sixths. So we get like that. And here we get the C. So these are passing tones. Okay, these are both passing tones. I won't notate both of them, but you'll see, or you can see that they're both passing tones. And then we get here. Well, this is the 5 chord. These would be passing on the 5 chord, but this stays the same. So this is a pedal. So we can get a pedal tone in there. And now let's listen to the whole thing. Make it the right place. Good. And there you have it, another realization, another kind of character to the music, and a different set of patterns and uses of non-chord tones.